What's up, everyone? Welcome to S-TEC Live. My name is Tony, and I'm the social media coordinator here at the Peter E. Schmidt Company. If you don't know who we are a manufacturer representative in the New York metro area. We represent leading audiovisual brands including Digico, Shure, K&M, Hosa, just to name a few, but today, the focus is our newest manufacturer, EAW, also known as Eastern Acoustic Works. If you don't know who they are, to make it super simple, they make speakers. Loud speakers. We are going to be having a conversation about some of their products they have to offer, including the newest line array series, NTX, plus the newest subwoofer series, SBX, both of which were just announced yesterday. So, if you've got questions about NTX, SBX, or any other product from EAW, please submit them in the Q&A. We have people monitoring, and you will have your questions answered during the Q&A portion. Frank Conway, VP here at PES, will be putting links in the chat for you to reference throughout today's event. If you hear a random glorious voice coming through at some point today, that would be coming from Frank. We have John Mills from EAW joining us, and our very own Ross Moretzsky is going to be leading the conversation for today. So, I'm going to pass this thing off to them so we can get started.
Hey, Tony, thank you for the introduction. And John, thank you for joining us today. I wanted to start out by asking you to introduce yourself and give a little bit of an explanation as to what it is you do for EAW.
Sure. Thanks for the intro as well. I am a senior applications engineer at EAW, which basically means I'm here to support you and anybody who has any questions about our stuff, technically or any of that. Pricing, talk to P.E. Schmidt guys. But if it's technical, you can call me. So I'd like to get started with whatever you want to do here first, Ross.
Sure thing. I was actually hoping you might be able to give a bit of a history on EAW. You guys have been around for a very long time, and there's a lot of ground to cover, but a bit of a quick history would be awesome.
Sure. I'm going to share my screen just because I got some cool photos over here. Share PowerPoint, share. And did it come up? Whoops, not presentation mode. I'm an audio guy, not a video guy. Okay, everybody see that? We good?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so just some fun photos of us. In the bottom right corner there, you can see the older gentleman. That's Kenton Forsyth. He is one of our co-founders who's been with us for a very long time. Somewhere in the middle of COVID here, he decided to go ahead and retire. So he's still around out there and talks to us and advises on things, but just time to enjoy life, I guess, for him. So we wish him the best in that. The bottom left there, you'll see a pretty cool device that Bryn and Angela are showing. That's the inside guts of our top of the line adaptive system, which I'll explain later. Top left corner there is the last NAMM show that, if you guys remember NAMM shows back, I don't know how many years ago when we were actually gathering and going to shows. That was our 7.1 with surround demo that we did with Robert Scoville. It was quite fun. But all that to kind of say that we've been around a long time doing a lot of things. People may remember us all the way back in the LA series, the KF 850. Everybody's probably toured or touched one of those at some point. All the way up to, like I'm showing there in the top left, our top of the line flagship these days is the adaptive product line. So just a little bit there.
Awesome. Thank you for the background. I actually, one of the first shows I mixed was on a KF 850 rig.
Sure.
Very cool.
If you've been in live sound and not touched one of our speakers, you're pretty young, probably.
Yeah, and I am pretty young, and I still have, so I consider myself not all too young. But EAW's history has been varied and extensive. And over the last, it feels like a decade, but it was really the last year, there was a lot of noise, a lot of digital noise, a lot of media noise, and there's a lot that happened. And I was hoping you might be able to speak a little bit to what EAW was up to in, as far back as like late 2019 through 2020 and some of the advancements you guys made, and maybe some of the product releases that folks might have missed.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's been a weird year. I think we all know that. Every webinar I'm on, everybody says it's a weird time, and it is. So there's been a lot that we've done. We haven't been silent. Interestingly enough, we scaled back our team like most people did. I wouldn't say it's a skeleton crew, but we're running on a slimmer, more mean and efficient team. But we haven't slowed down. We've got a lot that's been going on. Let me see if I have that next. Let me do this first, Ross, because I put this in here. I want to talk something kind of nerdy. So I'm not going to go super nerd for those people who are out there and more in the sales department, but this is a key feature that we take our pride in EAW. And I'm showing it first because the next few things I want to show you all have this. So phase linearity talks about basically all the frequencies arriving in a time that's predictable. This is a graph that kind of shows that. And that is a good target for a speaker, for instance. Okay, so that's our KF810. That's our top of the line brand new line array. And then on the right is another line array from, like I said, they're a highly respected European brand that might be similar. And that's a live measurement that I took of their product because I used to use that product a lot. And the product doesn't sound bad. Don't get me wrong. I'm not dogging that product, but every product series that company has a little bit different version of that. What I want to show you is that if you take a look at our KF18 or 810, which is, like I said, one of our top of the line array boxes, down to our brand new RS121, which is our entry level powered speaker on a stick, they're very, very, very similar. What does that translate to, sales guys? That translates to they sound the same. So if you were to use an RS121 as a fill with a KF810, 10 box hang, they would sound very much the same as you went from zone to zone, like as you leave the sound coverage of one into the other. And many manufacturers don't pay attention to that. So the fact that we do that in our flagship all the way down to our entry level stuff is a pretty cool thing. So
yeah, I can imagine from an application standpoint that makes the system of any size, scale, and scope a lot easier to mix and match and put together.
Exactly what it does. Yeah. So here's some guys, having some fun with one of our the RS series speakers. So let's talk about that for a minute. That was the newest thing we launched up until NTX that launched yesterday. So back a generation, I guess, of launches during the silent times of COVID. This is the RS, and everybody was kind of like, do we really need another speaker on a stick? And I was that when I was like, why are we doing that? That's not us. We seem to make bigger, louder, giant speakers. But the fun thing is we actually did some things to that genre of speakers that improved it. So for instance, the asymmetric ports to me was one of the things that I was like, okay, this is marketing. I'll be honest with you. And then I heard it, and we had it in our sound chamber with a bunch of other products at similar priced and similar capabilities. And the fact that it just sounds punchier and cleaner in the low end. And it's due to the asymmetric ports. I'm not going to go into why, but most people don't do asymmetric ports. They're just doing a port and sizing it. The asymmetry of these actually makes like it says there, the reflections internally in the cabinet are less. So it's kind of great. The other thing that's fun is because we've developed so many large, expensive speakers over the years, we were able to make an MK style horn, which is probably by far our most popular speaker ever. I mean, hundreds of thousands of them sold over the years that was alive. And because one of the things was its waveguide, its horn was very good. So we actually adopted that horn down into this series, which is kind of unheard of. If you look at cross sections of some other speakers in there, they don't actually have real horns. So, and then obviously we put our amplifier and DSP in it. But what we did is we kind of did our thing. And from the back panel of it, it's real simple, XLR in, volume control. So we put all of our stuff into components, into the horn, into the amp and the DSP, but then we made it simple. And in my opinion, there's two different versions of a speaker on a stick, one that's got a mixer and a wireless mic and a bunch of stuff built into the back. And then one that took all of that money and put it into the transducers and things that do what the speaker needs to do, which is sound great. So I think you know who the second one is. So there's two models in this. There's four actually. The RS123, the RS153 I'm showing here. This is our kind of step up. If you were to look at the website, you'll see also the 121 and the 151. The difference is in the HF section. The 123, the one with the 3 series, is using, as you can guess, the last statement there, a 3-inch voice coil compression driver. So it's got a much, much, much better and more expensive HF driver. If you just need to save $150 or so, the 121 and the 151 also sound great, but they're using I think it was a 1.75 in it. So it's just a little bit less HF output. I would say if you're kind of choosing and you're doing a small club, the 121s are great. If you got a little bit bigger room, maybe 50 feet or further of throw, then the 153. And if you're only choosing one, then my opinion, I like the 3 series. So, and obviously we try to stay fairly understandable. The 12 and the 15 are obviously 12s and 15s is the LF. So that gives you a little bit on those guys. What I'll do here, Ross, is I'll kind of hit each of the sections and then we'll talk in between. So this is the RS, then we'll come up with this PowerPoint in a second. So in that same line, we introduced a 15 and an 18-inch sub. You can see the specs there. The 15, it's a respectable 15, sounds great. Gets down to 40 hertz. But I'll tell you, my favorite is that 118, and it's not that much more expensive. So again, if you're choosing one, that 118 is a powerhouse of a little sub. It just, let me take my EAW hat off for a second. Let me do that. Add those words. I was blown away when I heard this with other subs in the same category. I'm kind of like, do we really need another sub in this category? And it's like, wow, it sounds musical and punchy, which is usually one or the other in that type of speaker. So yeah, so that's the RS series. The next thing we could talk about, what else you got there, Ron?
I was, as Tony mentioned in the intro, you guys, although 2020 was a decent amount of time, 2021 here, we actually have some new products. And I was hoping you might be able to speak to the launch we saw yesterday, the little bit of a teaser that we got on the web and what we've been seeing in the last few weeks as we've led up to the NTX and SBX launch.
Yeah. Let's start with this one. Oops, hang on. I'm gonna actually...
and while you're doing that, I'll add, it is awesome to see that the decades of experience that go into the top of the line models have continued to make their way and trickle into some of the entry level products that you guys have, and that they sound just as good, and sonically you're able to go across the multiple lines within your repertoire to actually mix and match and build a system that's cohesive, even if it is from disparate parts within your different lines.
Yeah, and that's one of the things. I mean, we're not I mean, if you guys know us, we make speakers. We don't make mixers and other things. Even our amplifier, we OEM that. So we work really hard on speakers and speaker technology and the acoustics inside the box and across the board, like you kind of saw with RS that I just said. I mean, it's for us, that's an entry level speaker. It's still a great speaker, and in my opinion, better than most in that environment and range. But because we're such a tight knit group of engineers, all of that technology, it's like, well, why couldn't we bring this down into a more affordable package? You find a little bit more affordable way to make the horn, or, technology advancements that happen and such. So what you're going to see here with NTX is it's an evolution of all of our line arrays and all the things that we've done over the years. If you saw the website, it did say made in Italy. So I'll address that right out of the box. Yes, we are owned now by RCF Group, and our friends in the RCF Group are DB Technologies. So when you interlace companies like that all do things really well, we looked at the fact that they were getting ready to do a 210. They looked at the fact that we were getting ready to do a 210. And we said, well, we don't like your acoustics and they don't like our hardware. So we kind of mix and matched and basically took the best of both worlds. So if you were a discerning person, you would see that the new NTX is using very, very, very similar hardware to the VO line of speakers that DB is doing. It's a great set of hardware. So we were like, why reinvent that wheel? That was where we were kind of stuck at the moment and getting ready to do. So what we did is we actually made our box a tiny bit different size so that it would fit the hardware they had. But rest assured, it is an EAW product. It just happens to be using the best of both manufacturing world. So they're doing our hardware, we're doing the acoustics package. It's our transducers, it's our amplifiers, it's our waveguide. basically, other than the fact that, you know, you might look at the holes in the hardware and they look similar, it's not the same product. That being said, the NTX 210. So this was one of the original sketches back in the pitch days for it. That's the complementary sub we'll get into a little bit later that we mentioned. But the big thing I want to talk about as we go into NTX is because of being owned by different people over the years, there have been different directions that we went sometimes. When we were under the Loud ownership, the Mackie group, they were big into iOS. So our initial RSX series was done in iOS. We've since decided that the iPad, cannot handle where we're going with what we're going to be able to control with NTX and RSX. So while we're not going to abandon the Mac users, we love you guys, I'm one of you, more power. But for now, we're going to focus our direction on Resolution, which is our PC-based control app for adaptive. But what we are doing is bringing all of our products and all of our DSP and all of our control into it. So you wouldn't have to necessarily have running your adaptive and an iPad running your RSX fills, and that just gets confusing. So we're unifying everything. So this is a brand new thing that launched at the same time as NTX. So NTX Control is in Resolution 2.9. If you have that product, which nobody does yet because it's just starting to ship, but as soon as you do, you'll be able to control it in there. If you have RSX, you can upgrade your firmware and have all of the NTX fun that we can do with that now because it's using a similar DSP platform. So you'll be backwards compatible with that. NTX won't go back into iOS at this point. So let's move forward here. Whoops, wrong keyboard, that one. So I still got some of the artist rendering versions in my PowerPoint here, but basically the 210 is a dual 10. 141 max output, which is pretty great for a dual 10. And you can see there, actually there's a couple of, where's my cursor at? There's a couple of pieces not shown here. There's basically a piece that covers over part of that. Oops, can't touch that. That does some really, really tricky acoustic tricks. We wanted the box to be a certain size, but we wanted the woofers to be spaced in a certain way with their acoustics that would give them the same pattern control as the waveguide for the main. So in the two different horn patterns we offer for this, we match the woofer spacing with a block to basically tune it so that as you walk out of the coverage, the HF and the LF roll off at the same time. So that's kind of a cool thing. Awesome. Notice that we aren't, if you're fans of us and you know the 730 and 740, and you know some Germans that are doing some side firing woofers, that we're not doing that anymore. We learned that with 730, we did side firing only. And in 740, we did side firing and front firing, which sounded better. The side firing only really nice pattern control across the front, but not a lot of punch because there was no direct radiation LF forward. So the 740 evolution, we added drivers firing forward so you could have that punch out of your drums and stuff. But we realized that added size, components, and ultimately cost to it. So this acoustic-based drivers thingy that we're doing now is basically accomplishing the same pattern control with less components, more efficiency, and obviously less cost and weight. So the 210 is an evolution of all the things we've learned over the years with our side firing drivers and our pattern control and all those things, evolved down into the most compact, loudest speaker in its category, as far as I know.
I was going to say, it sounds like that evolution definitely took a bit of weight off of the boxes themselves. This must be a lot lighter.
Yep. This series is a lot lighter, and with self-powered onboard processing is even still lighter than, I think it's still lighter than even the 730.
Wow. That must make deployment a lot easier and the road miles a little bit less severe.
Yep. And when you see our carts and stuff here in a second, that's pretty fun too. So the complementary sub in the line is the SBX 218. You can't see it real good in the photos here, but obviously there's, oops, let me do it this way. There's, handles for kind of doing it from whichever angle you're wanting to pick it up from. Let me see if I can deeper. The one thing that I really like is this little bar right here. Straps can come through that and strap it down to the cart, or strap it down to a pallet or anything to just, but you know how subs, you get those EDM guys jumping on them and they'll walk around a little bit. So we kind of even thought about that and thought, let's put these little strap locks in here where you can put your crank straps through it and lock them all together. Even, I mean, we had a sub set up the other day, 3 tall, 6 wide, and we'd strap them all together like that and it wouldn't move. So just, you know, kind of a nicer way to do it. You know, maybe you get some black straps and not some orange ones and it looks really nice.
Right. No, that's clean. And again, it speaks to the sort of evolution. I remember in the days of the SB1000 having to just kind of figure out the best way to do things and hope that nothing moved when a rogue artist decided to walk off the stage and straight onto the subs.
Yeah, so we're not going to say that it's a feature to protect artists from falling. We all know that they will jump on the subs. So if we can help them, let's try. Pole cup on the top and on, well, it's on the other end according to this photo, but if you did want to put it on this vertical, you know, with the subs stacked this way, there's a pole cup at that end too, which is crazy. I thought it was a great idea.
Wonderful.
Let's see. This is preliminary stuff. We're still finishing a bit of this, but it's pretty close to what you see here. So on the left, you see the 210, 4 of them stacked on a cart with a nice little wedge there. And that wedge was kind of one of those things where it's like, well, why not just stack them straight? This does 2 things. It lets them travel in a way that each of them is compressed. So when you get fly it, you can actually pin your angles. And when you lift it, it separates up into the right spot. And then you put in your lock pins. So it lands really nice. It also kind of keeps it vertical inside of a nice, if you look, whoop, how did I do that? Okay. On the cart, it keeps it nice and vertical. So we have this little, we're calling it the top hat, but if anybody else has a better idea, post it in the comments because I think that's kind of silly, but it's what it is. What's cool about that top, you don't have to have it if you don't want it, but wasted space on a truck is wasted space. So with that cart on there, you can stack all your keyboards or smaller items up on top of the PA and it makes a nice floor in there if you have, you know, 4 stacks of these or something like that. So that's kind of nice. And then my big ad was I wanted forklift pockets on the sub because lifting a sub is a royal pain, especially if you've got 2 or 3 on the dolly. Yep. So that way it's nice and easy to get it off of a truck or up onto a stage or anywhere you need it to. That's maybe not as easy any other way. So yeah, so these are going to change just a little bit, but from a concept perspective, pretty much that. They're literally almost done. I think they're basically at the factory, or not at the factory, at the demolish me, make sure it's not going to break factory.
Awesome.
Yeah, so that's good on that. Let's see, I have to escape here out of order a bit. Let's talk about, let me do this slide for everybody, just because this will catch everybody up a little bit on the product line. So we've always been really, really high in the install market. We do a lot of stadiums and sporting arenas and sports ball places and that. And the MK series we've had out for 10 or 15 years, and it's really not had a whole lot happen to it. It's a great speaker. I mean, it's a simple speaker. It's a, you know, whatever size driver and your horn. And we have, I don't know, probably close to 50 different horn patterns if you go across all the different drivers. So you can kind of get anything you want out of it. And consultants like a lot because of that, because they might want to just have a little 40 by 40 degree to spot a certain area or something. But we also have had the QX series on the far right here. That's our super high end, highly directional, incredibly focused. If you need a speaker for a very reverberant space, this is your friend. Because you can see you can't totally see, but you see there's 2 drivers firing up and down there. There's also 2 drivers the other way. So you have 4 drivers in it that are creating a double dipole effect, which basically means more pattern control forward, less sound behind and around the box. It's a weird looking box. I get it. Before I came to EAW, I kind of avoided it for a few projects because it just is a weird looking box. But now that I'm here and I've used it a ton, I wish that I would have went back to some of the projects I didn't use it on, because it is an unbelievably good sounding box. And when you're behind it or under it, it doesn't have a whole lot of that honk and bleh that excites a room. So it's a very, very good. We see this a lot in sporting venues in the upper nosebleeds area where it's just, you know, the sound is just swimming a lot. We even see it. We've got a handful of theaters that have put it in as left, center, rights. Got churches that use it. It's just a great top of line speaker. So we had the MK and we had the QX, and we realized we kind of needed something price-wise in between. So we launched the MKD series last year. May have been a year and a half ago now. Time is a bit questionable these days.
It's all last year at this point.
Yeah,
we
it's
can
all
just
last
skip
year.
over however long that might have been.
Yeah, yeah. So the MKD is, as you can see, a dual. So you have the MK, which is a single driver, the MKD, which is a dual driver LF, and the QX, which is I want to call it the MQ, but the QX, which is the 4-driver version. So the MK has your dipole directivity in the vertical pattern as it's stacked right there. The horns are rotatable in all of these boxes, so you can hang them any way you want. There's M10 points all over them. We have a couple of brackets for them, but there's plenty of third-party brackets that work. Eye bolts work. You know, it's an installed guy's dream. You can do anything you want with it because you can hang it any way you want. So if you're looking to kind of keep some of that reverb in the room from, you know, swimming around, you might want to mount it horizontally, then rotate your horn whichever way you want. If you're hanging the MKD series maybe in a church over top of pastor's head, dead center, you might want to do it in the vertical because that's going to have more pattern control below the box. So i.e. your lapel mic's not going to feed back as much because of the spacing of those drivers. We made that pattern control much deeper. So 3 different price points, 3 different capabilities, all of them sharing similar components and quality of components. So they're all really great boxes, but the newest of that is the MKD. And I think I have that. Oh, there's an obligatory cool shot of a soccer stadium that has it. There's another one that's got, that one's fully QX. This is nice. If you're using our amplifier, you can get a lot of boxes on an amplifier. So amplifier density. And then here's the first 2 in the series, the 96 and the 1096. There's also 60 by 40. There's a 120 by 60 horn for these. And then we just launched maybe 2 months ago, the MKD 12. So as you can see, it's a dual 8, a dual 10, or a dual 12. The dual 12 MKD, the MKD 1200 series is by far my favorite speaker right now, like hands down any brand. Again, I'll take this away for a second and I will say it's an unbelievable sounding speaker. It's actually using the HF section of the QX 500 series with a brand new driver, an axiparacal driver, which is a very hard word to say. I still don't know if I say it right, but it's a super powerful driver that plays down to 300 Hertz. So your entire vocal range, for the most part, is in one driver, which if you know much about speakers, crossovers are bad. We do as good as we can with them. They're a necessary evil for what we used to be able to do with drivers. But now with this new Axi driver, being able to play that low, the amount of clarity you have at distance with the MKD 1200 is unprecedented. So, so that's fun. We want to talk about some new subs?
New subs.
Yeah.
Sure thing.
So I mentioned the SBX. The SBX is an evolution of the SB 800 here. What we did with this is, if you guys know us, we've got too many subs. we have a lot of subs in our lineup. But what we wanted to do was, we've kind of, I guess maybe, we didn't really make any new subs past the SB 2001. Everything's kind of stopped there for us for a number of years. The SB 1001, I would guess everybody has used that sub at some point. Even if you didn't know it, you probably used it. Yeah. It's one of the most popular subs on the planet ever. And it was a great design. One of the problems we heard from people on that is it's really deep. So sometimes it was just tough to get in spaces. So we're like, okay, the next sub we do, we should try to make it more shallow. And then also kind of the thought process was, well, let's wait to do a sub until we come up with something that's just better. Like, we don't want to just do a non-deep version of the SB 1001. So as you can see this take apart here, the big change in subwoofer technology is these little yellow things I've got here. We affectionately call them the wings, but they're basically the port. And the port on that sub is probably, I mean, there's no scale on chat here, but I mean, I would thinking it's probably 16 inches wide, maybe, by the height of the sub. So it's a big, giant open port. So it's with other subs, even some of our subs, you'll get that port noise that it's called chuffing. You can kind of hear sometimes at certain frequencies and things. This is almost zero distortion. Like it was tough. We had to recalibrate and double check our calibration to make sure that we were measuring as low of a distortion as we were measuring with this sub. I won't bore you with all those details, but basically that means if you play jazz or you play EDM or you play rock, this sub is going to accurately do it. I won't say it doesn't have a sound. It's a subwoofer. All subs do, but a lot of people choose a sub because they're like, I like how that sub sounds. This sub sounds like what you put in is what you get out, because there's no coloration to the sound, and it's a massive amount of air output moving on it. Again, because you're not trying to cram low frequencies that are big, giant puffs of air through tiny little ports. You have this giant port with, like I said, wings. They're basically shaped like an airplane wing to reduce any drag or vortices that are coming through that port. So it just moves a metric ton of air. I mean, it's a great sub. It's also using a new driver technology. It's not new, it's new to some, but it's using a dual voice coil on the sub. So if you think about like the magnetic gap that is there where you have your coil that's going through it, right? So when you energize the coil, it moves inside the magnetic gap. What we did with this is we put a 21-inch motor. We put, two 21-inch motors on an 18-inch driver. So you have this massive, I mean, the thing that's driving that 18 is like this big. And then there's two of them. So basically there's, I don't know how to show you this on the screen. Maybe like this. There's two coils that are going in there. So even when that driver is at full excursion, it's still got an entire coil from a normal subwoofer. It's still in full magnetic flux. So it basically never, I won't say it's never at excursion because the driver is at full excursion, but it's still in full control at full excursion. And maybe the best way to dumb that statement down. So it's just an incredibly accurate sub. And all of the subs in this series are using something similar to that. They're all a little bit different, but for the most part, same port technology, high-end drivers, and such. So let's keep pushing the wrong one. I guess that's all I had on that. Oh no, here it is. I skipped it by accident. So in that series, there's the SB8 and 828, which you can see obviously probably, I don't know, a dual 15 and a dual 18, right?
Okay.
The thing I want to point out is, as an installer, my previous job was working for an installation firm. I always found it hard to get subs under a stage because 18-inch subs just don't fit under a lot of stages.
Right.
But the 825 is 17 inches tall, and it does play down to 27 hertz, and it gets great. I just finished a project tuning where it's probably a 1,000-seat church, I think, and they had one of these per side, and I was kind of going, okay, dual 15,000 seats, I don't know. I am running on -10 and still getting more than enough output. I was blown away. I know it's my product, I keep saying that, but just as a guy who likes speakers, if you need to get a sub under a stage, but you don't want to compromise LF, that 825 is a powerhouse for a 17-inch tall sub. So yeah, let's see what else I got here.
So I actually wanted to go back to something you said earlier.
Yeah.
You guys have a lot of subwoofers. You actually have a lot of point source boxes. You sort of have more variety than one can easily grasp in maybe 15 minutes, a half hour, 35 years or so.
Right.
For those of us who maybe don't know, everything there is in the EAW line, what can we do? How can we, sort through the tons and tons of information that's there, or what can we do for a little bit of help when there are just too many options?
So one of the things that we do that I don't know that everybody does, but there are 3 guys like me who work here. Brian DeFabio, who is in our office. He's there 24/7, but he only answers the phone 9 to 5.
Okay.
You can call the main office and ask for design, and Brian will answer that phone. You can also get a hold of on the East Coast. I'm the East Coast guy, and then Jonas Domkus is our West Coast guy. And we offer full design service. So, I'd ask if you need 2 speakers and a sub, don't call. but if you're trying to, decide, well, what one is it? Or if it's a simple question like, hey, what sub do you think would be right for this? Just call us. Email design@eaw.com. There's also on the website a design request form. You can go to there, fill out the details. I mean, that's kind of more if you're trying to do a full system. Your question specifically, Ross, though, just which product is right for my thing. Sometimes probably just best to call us. We can also look at inventory and, go, hey, we're overloaded on this sub. So maybe if you call the P. Schmidt guys, they might make you a deal on this one.
Okay.
Sometimes there's B stock available, especially after trade shows.
Right.
There's B stock available because we have had a trade show and I haven't sold anything from that trade show. So, just check with these guys here and see what's available. But yeah, I think the easiest thing is that it's not a good way to sort through that on the website by yourself because there are so many options. So sometimes the easiest thing is just send an email. I mean, to me, anything that I've ever worked with, any AV product, I usually try to find somebody that knows more than me. That's usually a good idea. So since we all work here and the Schmidt guys do as well, just send us an email and one of us can get back to you on at least a direction or, things like, well, are you looking for a external amplifier or a self-powered? Okay, that's going to narrow down the product category. Are you trying to put it under a stage or fly it? And so there's, tons of those questions that we can ask real quickly and just narrow it right down to the right thing.
Awesome. There's, it's helpful to have that, especially, everybody has their limit as to how far their range of knowledge goes in something. And it's awesome to have a resource, right at the horse's mouth to be able to have full access of.
Yeah.
One of the other questions I did want to ask you while you're here is, what you guys do for weather protection. If you're designing outdoors, what do I do? Because, a lot of folks need that, but don't know where to go or how to get that information.
All of the ones I showed you, MK, MKD, QX, are all available in fully weather protected versions. I'll say this as easily as I can say it. All of our drivers are treated for weather protection. That doesn't mean you can just put a hose on them. But the cones are impregnated with a material and a process that helps those cones last over the years, even down to our lower level stuff. Now, the difference between weather protection and let's say between outdoor use and weather protection is a loaded question to some degree. It depends on what you're trying to do, right? Most of our boxes are going to survive, and if you have them out on a gig and they get a little wet and you didn't get some cover over them, they're going to be fine. If they take a full-on downpour into the front of the grill, no, probably not. But if you go up into what is known as our WP versions of the products, those things are unbelievably sealed. They add a fiberglass coating around the outside. The ports are sealed on the back. The front adds a stainless steel mesh to it so that I don't remember the exact, I don't remember the IP rating. I think that out of the gate, all of them are 56 and some of them can go up to 64, depending on the product and what it is. But that's never a immerse. Don't put them underwater kind of level thing.
Right, so you don't want to pressure wash them. That's definitely just outright. Okay.
Yeah, you could take a spray bottle and spray it and clean them off.
Sure.
But like even the QX, that weird shaped one, it has a little hat that goes on the front of it to kind of protect any rain from coming into that top of that grill, because the front of that grill does have a weird angle on it. So we made a little hat that goes there that just kind of changes the LF a little bit. Okay. Not really even measurably. But yeah, our WP is by far one of the top rated WP processes in the industry. We've got product, I know that we've got product in the Vatican, for instance, that's been there 18 years, I want to say, probably pretty close to that. And they've had zero weather problems with it whatsoever. So it lasts. I think that's one of the reasons that the consultants like our product a lot, is especially in these non-awesome environments, is that that it does have such a good WP. And we have a whole document on that I can share with you guys, and we can put a link to it. If you talk for a minute, I can try to find it. I don't know where it is off the top of my head.
Sure thing. I actually believe I have found that, and it is pretty impressive, the comprehensive amount of products that are available if you really need a fully weather protected installation. It really doesn't seem to limit the capabilities you have in system design too much at all.
Yeah, and sonically it doesn't change. I mean, we're taking our box that's already done and adding all of this to it. So you're getting, in some ways, some people even said that the WP stuff sounds a little tighter. And I would say probably because it's a lot more dense, because it's got the multi-layer fiberglass on it. So
right, you're adding a bit of rigidity there.
Right, you've got your multi-layer Baltic birch, and then add layer of fiberglass to it. That thing's going to be able to take a Mack truck to the face.
Hopefully no one needs to do that.
That's not a feature. I didn't say
that. But if you needed to, I guess.
If you needed to, yeah.
There's no other option. I think one of the other questions I'm going to have to ask, because it wouldn't be a good deep dive if I didn't, is there anything else that you guys have in the works stirring up that you might be able to speak to a little bit here or there for the folks that have joined us today?
Sure. Let me share this. Where'd my button go?
I know we covered a good number of products that almost look like an entire family of products from an entire brand, but that's actually only a portion of what you guys do have. But, I got to ask if there's a little bit more going on.
So to tell you about the secret new product, let me have to tell you about this product real quick.
Okay.
So our adaptive systems are the two towards the bottom there are line arrays. The difference in those line arrays is the number of components in one box and the fact it hangs straight. So we actually use all of the components. Like for instance, this is our Anna box, and there are 8 HF drivers, 4 mid-range drivers, and 2 10-inch drivers in one box. If you talk about her bigger sister, Anya, she has 22 drivers. So we have taken a lot of stuff, crammed it into one spot, but we have individual amplifier, DSP, and monitoring control of every component individually. What I'd like to point out for the line array nerds is that everything is within quarter wavelength of the frequency it's controlling, which means we have pure line array control to the 1-inch level, meaning we can control any frequency we want. So I'll just walk you through this real quick. This is just standard PowerPoint I usually use on this. That's what I just said. Here's what the difference is. So on the left, that's our KF730. That's 8 traditional line arrays, and you can see it covered that room. If anybody is familiar with line array technology, you kind of have boxes towards the top that are straight. And the more you get to the bottom, you open up that curve so that you can, we call it the J, so that as you open it up, you decrease power. So the seats that are closer have less power hitting them. The seats that are further away have the straighter boxes coupling together to throw further. So I'm the guy that's always used this kind of array. I walk into a room, I can look at a room and go, I'm probably going to need 8 or 10 boxes, just because mostly I need to have enough to bend so I have something pointed at the front row, right? When we introduce you to adaptive, the thing that you need to know is that I can do the same and better with less. So if we just talk component density, that one on the left, if that's a dual 10-inch, that has 16 10s, right?
Mm-hmm.
On the right here has 8 10s, but let's talk mids. They don't exist on the left. Let's talk highs. I have 8 highs on the left. On the right, I have 8 times 4, 32 HF drivers.
Okay.
So when we're talking about getting HF to the back of the room, I just have more ability. And you can see in my little specs there, this is not me comparing to another manufacturer. This is me from my product to my other product. I can do almost always half as many adaptive product as you would think you need with the traditional. And it's because what we're doing is manipulating those drivers still into an acoustically shaped J of some sort. But if you let me get my cursor here. You see me? Do you see my cursor?
Yep.
Okay. So with this is the kind of shape that we're trying to get because of our trim height and what we are limited to with our angles. This is kind of the best. I mean, I played with this. I'm not really trying to market hype this at all. This is what I would do with this product if this was an install.
Right.
And
Uh-oh.
where'd it go? There it is. I don't know why it keeps doing that. When you're doing line array design, you want the shape of this wave to be the shape of the venue. So as you look over here to the right, you can see that I'm getting back in under this balcony. I'm getting much more extension up into the balcony, and my floor is much more even, where over here I've got more of a hot spot at about 20 feet. Over here, I'm pretty even to the rest of the room. That's obviously just showing one frequency there, but I won't bore you, but if we looked at all the other frequencies, it does similar things. Right. So as you're designing, and let me go back, maybe, I guess I've been here about 3 years. So 4 years ago, I didn't understand this about adaptive. I assumed that it's a line array, so I need as many as I need. So it seemed very expensive to me, but when I actually crunched the numbers of the solution on the left with traditional boxes and the solution on the right, it's actually a very similar price point to the end user, especially considering your rigging and everything is less. There's a lot of advantages to it. And then the beauty of it is, let's say we hung the one on the left and we weren't happy with it. We're going to have to get the lift or the scaffolding back out to change it. Right. On the right, I just change a computer setting in our software and you end up getting better results. So,
yeah. So, I mean, when you look at that cost comparison, what that sounds like to me is, price wise at purchase, you're in the same realm, but over the lifespan of the product, you're actually saving a lot of money. You're not going to miss a angle when you pin something up and need to drop it again. You're not going to have to bring a full crew in and spend a day to get things reset. You're in DSP. You're not in manual labor, and that's a huge cost savings over the lifetime of a product.
And another thing that's cool about it is just a cool shot of a immersive demo we did out in Phoenix a few months ago. Well, a year ago, I don't know.
Sometime.
Each box, because I have DSP and control on each one, I'm monitoring it all the time. So I'm monitoring called system health. And if any box loses power, not likely, but if we have a blown driver for some reason, it knows it, it reports it to me in the software. And then this is where it gets crazy. We have what we call heal. So it can recalculate its output based on, let's just say in one of these arrays here, it lost box 2. If that was a traditional line array, we would have a hole in coverage. And we would too, until you hit heal. And what it does is it then recalculates modules 1, 3, and 4 to cover the area that 2 that's compromised for some reason is missing. So you can get through a service. We've had people who couldn't get parts quick enough because very remote area. They ran a couple of shows on it like this, and no one notices the difference. If we ever get back to doing live demos, this is one of my favorite demos to do, is to have a stack of 5 or 6 and have everybody like, wow, that sounds so great. And then tell them I've done something to it and listen to it again. It's like, oh, that still sounds great. What'd you do? I'm like, turned 4 of the 5 boxes off and healed it. And it's pretty jaw-dropping to go, wow, it sounds just good. Obviously, it's not as loud because it doesn't have as many resources. Right. You can make some adjustments on the mixing console and pan some things different, get through your show and fix it afterwards. So in a very critical, application where you don't want to have downtime, we've got this in a handful of auditoriums for the U.S. government where they have to have 0 downtime, multiple systems. And this was one of the biggest selling points for them. Their technician can literally walk in, look in the bottom corner of the software, it's green, and he knows that the system is 100% functioning.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's a really, really cool feature. So this is another install that we just completed last year, maybe a little bit before that. This is the Bell Center up in Canada. And just to kind of give you an idea, this is a full-size NHL hockey arena, and I'm covering it with 6 boxes in each location. So if you look in almost any arena any of you have ever been in, if you have 6 boxes of a normal line array, it's not going to sound good. We know that. It's just not enough PA for that type of a room. This went online. So each section is 6 ANA with 3 of the auto subwoofer, which is the subwoofer of the series behind it. They potted their console up on the first day of checks, and he immediately turned it down 12 dB. So compared to the system they had, we were 12 dB louder. And he even had the subs go down another 3. So he had me take it out because he wanted to run his fader the same way his guys always were used to. And so we actually turned the ANAs down. I think we ended up turning them down 9 and turning the subs down 12. So they have plenty of headroom if they have, some kind of monster truck act come in or something like that that's super loud. But for the typical shows, the system was far beyond their desires, and everybody was very happy. So
That's awesome.
that was a fun one. There you can, if you can't see them, that's highlighting them there. This is just a nerd level side view of it. So notice when I change this that the array doesn't change. Right? So that is what I do with that when I'm presenting this presentation live is I actually do a change just like that on the software as I do it. And you'll notice that you don't hear anything, but it sounds like everything when I'm playing this, you can tell the sound is just up in the air, bouncing off the ceiling. And then the track is continuing to play and I hit the button. As I hit the PowerPoint, it does this. And you just watch the audience go, because all of a sudden the system comes live. So the directionality of it is literally about a 1.5 second change with no audible artifact, clicking, popping, anything. It literally sounds like you took the speaker, went like that, and just pointed it in a different direction. So all that to say, I think that's the end of what I've got there. Those 2 products have been out for a minute. I think Anya, the big one, came out in 2012. And Anna came out 2017, maybe it's 13 and 7. I don't remember. But anyway, Anna has been our go-to lately as the newest one. But there is a new one. And I'm not going to show anything. I'm just going to tease and tell you to watch the website because it's in its final renditions. But it is a. But yeah, so we've been very busy during COVID.
Sounds it.
And, a lot of really good stuff. There's a few other things coming. There's some major software updates. Well, the one major one, like I just said, was 2.9, which now is NTX and RSX control inside of resolution. Did we talk about the iPad app at all? I don't remember.
We did a little bit, but I do believe that we're actually going to get the hook here soon.
As much wow. I'm just rambling. Okay, let's hit some questions.
Are there any questions from the audience here? Mr. Conway, if you're there in the sky.
Oh, hello.
Oh, he is here.
There's nothing. I think you guys have nailed pretty much everything, it looks like. Hopefully everyone sees the links that I've been adding as John's been talking. So there's obviously a slew of information for each of those talking points that you can peruse at your leisure. But yeah, I don't see any right now.
Awesome.
Yeah, great.
Well, I just want to reiterate, there's a lot of information. EAW has a ton of different speakers for just about every application there is on the planet. If you need help, we, the Peter E. Schmidt Company, are a source that you can go to. If you're looking for a full system design, EAW has services and assistance that they are able to offer. John, I want to thank you for joining us today and giving an information dump across many of the different products, as well as the different services you offer and the software. If anyone's interested in.
Let me add real quick, Ross. I was just thinking when you said that the design thing, it's free. Like, we don't charge you for that.
And hits just keep on coming.
Don't abuse it. But yeah, no, we want to make sure the product that you guys get is exactly the best that we could do. And as amazing as the PE Schmidt guys are, they're never going to know it as well as an EAW guy does. So they can help you, we can help you. I mean, this is a big team effort. They are your local support in your area. We are your national support, and we work together as a big team on it, and that's at no charge to you. So that's pretty cool too.
Yeah, that's awesome. Again, thank you for joining us today. Thank you for the information. The folks watching, stay tuned for more S-TEC Live that we've got coming up. I believe in the next few weeks here, we've got JMAZ, who's going to be doing a bit of a presentation on some of their lighting stuff as well. Very exciting, very excited to have them on board. And, you know, we're looking to schedule more of these in the future here. So if there's any manufacturers you're interested in hearing more from, or product lines you'd like to learn more about, feel free to reach out to us and say, hey, bring these guys on. We want to hear them talk about some stuff. So with that, I believe we may have some sort of outro here from Mr. Tony Bavacqua. So I'm going to hand that over to him.
Thank you, Ross and John, for this amazing conversation today, and thank you all for joining us on this edition of S-TEC Live. We really appreciate your time and being here with us. John, I appreciate your time today as well. It has been awesome to learn about the options that EAW has to offer, as well as some history and some other incredible things. We have another S-TEC Live featuring one of our lighting brands, JMAZ Lighting, coming up in just 2 weeks on March 25th at 11 a.m. EST. If you're interested in joining us for that, we have put a link in the chat for you to go register. We are going to be talking about all the products they have to offer, including the Aero Series battery-powered wireless DMX moving headlights. Yes, you heard me right. We just released an S-TEC TV video on those very products last week, so if you want a little sneak peek, head to our YouTube channel to check that out. Also, if you want the most up-to-date info on our manufacturers, you can find us on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube. Those are the places to be. If you want to rewatch this S-TEC Live, that will be uploaded to our YouTube page in the near future. So once again, I want to thank you all for joining us. I know for sure that I have learned a lot. And just as I say on our S-TEC TV videos, thanks for watching. Hope you learned something. We'll see you next time.